Hey everybody, welcome to the Adventist Hoops podcast. Today I'm here with the AD and head boys coach at San Gabriel Adventist Academy in Southern California, Kevin McCloskey. Kevin, welcome to the Adventist Hoops podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be on and talk hoops.
So Kevin, according to Max Preps, SGA was the boys team was the 112th ranked team in the whole state of California out of hundreds and hundreds of teams. You guys made it to the state playoffs in Division II here. Where does this season rank for you?
Good question. We had a good season. We lost in the semifinals, Division II, CIF. Went on to state.
And just in case people aren't aware with California's structure, Division I is the highest. There's an open division above that that's like kind of disregarding divisions, but Division II is like right almost at the top division in the state. So
yeah, and I think one of the other things that people may get confused about is you'll hear people from California talk about CIF, and then you'll also hear them talk about state, and that can be kind of confusing. And so what we have down here, if you don't mind me talking about
please,
it,
yeah.
is so like when I grew up in Walla, Washington, and had some friends. I remember watching Portland Adventist win the state championship. I think they were the first Adventist school to do it. It was exciting. I think Norm Ballou was the coach at the time, and
He's on my list.
yeah, good guy. And I think that they went up there, and I think it was an 7-8 team bracket to go through the state tournament, and so down here it's a little bit different. We have a 32 team bracket for what we call CIF, and that's sectionals really. So when we say we're going to the CIF playoffs, it's a 32 team bracket plus potential wild cards. So it could be a 64 team bracket. So you could basically have an NCAA tournament just to qualify to get to state. Once you get to state, it's another 32 team bracket that's split between a 16 team bracket in the southern part of the state and a 16 team bracket in the northern part of the state. And the winners of the two then play each other for a state championship. So you can literally have 13 games to win a state championship, which for a lot of our schools is like double their season.
You're saying it's a little harder in California.
Yeah, I mean, say it is what it is, right? And so I'm not saying it's better or worse or anything like that. I'm just so when people express we want a CIF championship. So for example, we've won a couple CIF championships, but we've never won a state championship.
Right.
The CIF championship,
It's a section championship.
Technically it's but you'll see
Yeah.
banners at people's gym that say CIF championship. CIF stands for California Interscholastic Federation. And so some schools don't even choose to go to state because of the cost of travel and that extra cost, and you just play in your sectional. So you'll hear people, and we have, things like this when you win CIF, right? So that's like our ring from our first CIF championship. This is our ring from last year's championship, right? And so,
I know they make Sabbath accommodations for Adventist schools. Maybe instead of rings, they should do like some sort of nice watch instead.
Yeah, hey, we're in SoCal now. It's times are changing, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know, get that out of the way. But I think that and then there's obviously we have divisions 1 through 6, and there's 1, and then there's 2A, 2AA, 3A, 3AA, and so on and so forth. And yes, we were in 2A. So the next, and we had been in 1 for a number of years pre-COVID. Hadn't been able to get past the quarterfinals. Tough division. But yeah, so that's kind of what we do, Daniel. We've also won a couple CIF championships with volleyball, where boys and girls volleyball programs have both won. But things have changed drastically with the competitive equity model too. And so now you're starting to see all the good teams are moved up across the board in every sport, and the lower levels have become I was going to say less competitive. They're competitive with themselves, but definitely the caliber of teams now down in Division 3, 4, 5, 6 is just everybody that's good moves up. Everybody that's
And when you say
poor
move up, you're talking about in the playoffs, they'll move up to their
division.
appropriate
Mhm.
division. Yeah, exactly.
So.
So, Kevin, how long have you been at San Gabriel?
So I was here from 98 through '03, or the first time, and then I went up and I coached girls basketball, was assistant AD for Tim Windemuth up at Walla University. And then from there I moved into a corporate gig for a while, and then I got back into coaching and teaching at Glendale Academy in 2008. And then in 2010 I started here again. So this time around I've been here since 2010.
And what was the basketball program like when you came back at 2010?
Well, when I was here the first time in the late 90s, early 2000s, we moved into CIF, which was kind of new in that era, that our schools were starting to move into competitive athletics and find ways to build programs and compete with like-minded schools in the area. So that was a big deal. So obviously, we weren't we were at a lower division, so our competitiveness was at a Division 5 level. And back then Division 5 still had really good teams in it, like Price, that won 12 back-to-back championships with Alan Crabtree and stuff, because those schools didn't get moved up back then. So they were in our league. We played them every year, and that was kind of the bar. I really credit Mike Lynch. He was the head coach there for many years. He's retired now. He's a wonderful human. And he kind of gave me a bar that I strive to try to reach. Like, I got really sick of losing to Price every year. And so then how do you beat him? And it kind of really developed my philosophy, because when I came out, I had watched Norm Ballou, what he did there, and I played at Walla University, and we did a lot of that same system. And so it was a real, press, get up and down the floor, drop into a 2-2-1 on misses, go all the way out and 1-2-1-1 on makes, and really just pressure, shoot, and fun to play. But over time, I felt like it led to us, maybe it gave us an advantage in games that were fairly equally matched talent wise. And games that we were going to win anyway, we would win by a lot larger margin. But then games that we were going to potentially lose, like to a Price, we would lose by a larger margin, because we don't want them. We don't want
More
to up the
opportunities for
possession.
them.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
possession levels when you're playing a dude that's going to the NBA, right? Like, we want to limit shots. And so that kind of helped. So I got away from a lot of zone stuff, and we went into a lot of real what we do now, which is, we try to really focus defensively and get after you in 94 feet for the whole game, and see
So
who
was
we
this
can.
sort of a slow progression to the point that you've built this team uh, today? Was it something that you made some specific changes that led to immediate changes that you noticed within a couple seasons?
Good question. So, everybody wants to know, how'd you do it? How come you guys win, or whatever the case may be? And there is no secret sauce. I think that luck, like anything in life, is a huge part of what happens, and I'll walk you through that. But having an amazing school, having an amazing culture at our school, having amazing administrators that I've gotten to work with Paul Negretti before, and now Bonnie Iverson, Angel Nair, really supportive. We don't just say it; we are it. We are a family. We're small. We used to have 300 kids, and now we have 160 or 80 in the high school, so we're small. But we've created a brand in basketball that draws people from our community. We're in Southern California, in the heart of SoCal. There's 6, 8 high schools within walking distance of SGA. So, like it's a competitive environment. But to answer your question, I think the main thing is, you know, when we talk about competition, you're never really competing with anybody except for yourself. I mean, that's at the end of the day, Price helped us set the bar, but in order to what we're to emulate them, we're looking within, right? And so that's something that I think has been attractive to our student athletes when we meet, when we have, team meetings, when we go on retreats. Who do you want to be? What what traits? And here's the other thing, like we get caught up in basketball, like, oh, I need this skill or that skill. Character gets you recruited.
Mm.
100%. Like I just got off the coach with Long Beach State, and they're looking at one of our kids, but they were concerned about the interactions with the coaches, his body language, right? They're not worried about his talent. His talent's good enough. They're worried about his character. And so character is everything. It's everything in life. It's everything in basketball, and so, we talk about wanting to win the battle between the ears, but really, can I be a better person today? And I tell people every day, I tell my team every day, look, man, I'm trying to be a better coach for you guys today. I'm trying to be a better husband for my wife today. I'm trying to be a better dad for my kids today. And if I can get 1% better today, I did my job. And if you guys can come out here and get 1% better at being a teammate, 1% better at being, less selfish, 1% better at empathy, you're gonna get 10% better at basketball just because of those traits that you're developing and winning the battle between the ears. So I think that's what I would point to as we don't try to win. We try to be better every day. Winning is just a byproduct of the process.
Mm.
And so you know, we might win a championship one year where I didn't feel like we had great growth, but we were just talented. And we might lose a championship on a team that I think had the greatest growth I've ever seen of young men. So I think to answer your question, the luck part was I had a principal, Paul Negretti, who's a dear friend of mine. He's now the superintendent in Denver, and great guy, great family. And he and I built something called the ASBL, the Adventist Schools Basketball League, back in the late 90s. And it was all the little middle school basketball, all the feeder schools to all of our academies in the Southern California Conference. And we put it together. We'd come in and we'd play on Sundays mostly at SGA, but at different sites as well, Glendale Academy, wherever we could find a gym. And we ran this big thing, and it was kind of the precursor to our schools getting into athletics. And it was a Sunday thing, and we had 12, 15 little schools doing it all across the board. And so we developed a friendship. He ended up helping me coach here and actually taking over our girls program. And so he became the principal here, and he called me up and said, hey, we have an opening here. We'd like you to come in, and we'd like to help build this program. And so without him, wouldn't have happened. And then I always told him when he left, I'd leave. But when he left, they put Bonnie Iverson in, and she's just been an absolute godsend, just an answer to prayer. She's just awesome, super supportive, loves the kids, cares, bleeds blue. That's what we call it around here because our colors are navy. And so it's been quite a ride. But I know I haven't answered your question. So to answer your question, when I first got here, we had 3 players. We had a guy named Josh Ajayi, who's a pro now in Europe. He plays in Germany. Went to South Alabama. He was amazing. And I'll tell you an interesting story about him that kind of set the tone for our culture. And then we had a kid, Ricky Gao, who was here. Both these kids were elementary students, but Ricky ended up being 6'10", Chinese kid. And we had a kid named Matthew Ankajaja, again, just local kid, but he was a really nice little point guard. Went on to La Sierra, played there. And so we had a nice core. Like I just inherited that. That's the luck part, right? I walked into that. Now they hadn't been maximizing that talent and they didn't really have a system or something around it, but it was organically there. And so we were short a few pieces. And we ended up starting our international program here. And we attracted two Lithuanian brothers, Arnas and Dartatas. And they came in and they gave us a solid starting five. And then we filled in the rest. And remember, back then we were in Division 5. And people always talk about the next year after this when Marcus Levette came in. But we actually went farther without Marcus Levette the year before. We went all the way to the regional final. So one win away from Arco Arena for the state championship. And we ended up losing to Trinity in San Diego. We went up and beat Mission Prep up at San Luis Obispo on a Saturday night. That was a huge game. We were down 7 with like 38 seconds left to go, and we pulled it out and won at the Glazer. Wow. And so luck, man, it's just luck. The shots went in. You can call yourself a genius for calling the right play, but if the ball goes in, what was it, a 50-50 chance? So got lucky, made a huge deep run, put us on the map, got fortunate enough to win a bunch of awards, our school coaching awards, state awards, all this stuff. And so the next year we had like 30 new kids apply, wanted to come play basketball. Wow. At San Gabriel Academy. And wow. So it changed the culture.
And so that was your second season back?
That was my second season. Yeah.
2012?
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. And then, yep. And so we were very successful. We went in and beat a Rolling Hills prep team that had a kid going to Arizona. And we shut him down, and we were talking to the Arizona coaches, and it just changed our culture. Our kids saw that exposure and saw that the hard work that we put in actually paid dividends. We get after it. I'm here at 5:30 every morning for any kid that wants to hoop, man. And we train them. We work, and we're soaked in sweat by 8 o'clock, and they go shower up for school at 8:20. And then we do it again after school for practice. And then we hit the weight room. And, you can come here and you can easily put 3.5, 4.5 hours in the gym in a day and go to school and still be home by 6 o'clock. So if you want to work, if you want to be successful and you want to separate, we'll give you the opportunity. Now, I'm not going to hold your hand. You're going to have to show up and do it, but I'll be here. So
you guys were in Division 5 for that deep run that kind of put you on the map. People kind of hear about San Gabriel, start coming to play basketball. At what point do you move up divisions?
So the next year, we were in 5A that year. The next year we moved up to 5AA. We won it. We won our first CIF championship. We had Marcus Levette on that team. And then we moved up to 4AA, I think it was. I think we skipped 4A, went up to 4AA. And at that time, that's as far as anyone could move up with our enrollment number. Now the system has changed since then. Then we stayed there for a little while.
I have a question though, if you don't mind. I was just going to ask, about Modesto Christian being very small back in the day. They were always competing for a state championship, I thought, at the highest level. So how did that work out?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with most of Northern Cal.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the only thing I can think of is whatever section they're part of had different bylaws than our southern section. Yeah. Generally, in California, the southern section drives the change. Whatever the southern section does, everybody adopts because there's so much. They're 4 times, 5 times as big as the next section. And their revenue, with their advertising and sponsorship is big. So generally the state follows suit, but there may have been a different, or maybe they were in an open, maybe they got put in the open.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you couldn't do that back then for us. Now,
that's what I was saying. I'm talking like in 2000 or so when this Modesto Christian team was And when you had said competitive, what did you call it? Competitive
Equity, competitive
equity.
equity.
Yeah, I
That's what
feel
they
like
call
it didn't exist back then. So anyway, I was thinking that through. Man, how did that work out? But I apologize.
Well, it didn't work. Yeah, so back then, yeah, I don't know. I have no idea because they should have been stuck with their enrollment number because that
Right,
back in the olden days, it was just an enrollment number.
right.
And then
Anyway.
they started tweaking with enrollment number plus this little PowerPoint ranking over the last 5 years. Then they went to 3 years. And now this next following year, for the first time, they'll be going live with there is no divisions until the end of the year. And
Mm,
at the very end of the season, for the Southern section, they go, okay, here's the top 32 teams, you're in Division One. Next 32
wow.
teams, you're in Division Two, and so on and so forth, all the way down. So
That's
it's
exciting.
it is exciting. We'll see. There's no every game's going to be, if the ranking systems are fairly accurate, are going to be. There's no more. So the problem with the 3-year trailing system was, let's say you have a really good team that's senior heavy, and then they all graduate, and now you move up, but you don't have a team to compete. Or the opposite is true. You have a really poor team, but then somebody brings in a bunch of transfers, and now you're really good, but you're
Killing
stuck down in
everybody.
a lower division.
Yeah.
So now it'll be real time. The challenge, I think, for the CIF is that their playoff revenue has gone down because you somewhat devalue league alliances, and all the um, competitive games happen the first day. So you take the top 32 teams in the Southern section, those are your biggest fan bases, right? And all of a sudden, after the first day of playoffs, half of those are done.
Yeah.
And so before, it would kind of trickle out. You'd have 10 really good teams in D1, 10 in D2, not exactly, but you get my gist. And so yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay, and I derailed us. You were saying that you moved up to 4 AA that
Yep.
next year, and then you've continued since then. Was there any gaps of time where you were at 4 AA, or did you continue to move up to?
We moved. So they changed the system after that, and they went to the 3-year PowerPoint with no relevance to um, enrollment size. So once that happened, we got moved all the way up to Division One quite quickly, because from 2016 to 2020, we had one of the greatest stretches, I think, of any team. Les and his girls have been amazing over at Orangewood, but for us, we won 80, almost 80, just under 83% of our games, like 82.7% of our games over a 4-year stretch. I mean, we didn't lose very much, and we played big games, but we were in Division One, and so we didn't quite get over the hump. We lost a couple buzzer beaters. We lost a buzzer beater to Crean Lutheran in the quarterfinals that we thought we had wrapped up. I thought we should have won one that year. We didn't. Um, you know, um, we lost a really tough one to St. Francis in the second round after we were the higher seed and thought we were gonna go there. And we lost one to Highland where they hit a half court off the glass at the buzzer to lose by one. And so we had some bad luck there, but we had some really good teams. We sent kid to USC, kid to Pepperdine, kid to Black Hill State, kid to Adams State, kid to UCI, kid to Pacifica. So we had a fun run and really good kids.
I have a question for you about the ranking for playoffs. Does that ever cause any issues playing other Adventist schools? Like you guys go to the Southwestern Adventist University tournament every year, and you're in the big school bracket, but do you come across has there ever been any scenarios where you are playing an Adventist school and you realize like we need to beat them by a certain amount for this not to hurt us in our ranking? Does that ever come up?
No, because I'm not that smart. I have no idea what it would do. I don't think about that. So a lot of coaches now, they're trying to game the system and look at their PowerPoints and figure out who they put. I don't buy. I have a blueprint that's worked. I stick with it, and that blueprint is this: we're going to play anybody and anybody, everybody, whenever you want to play, name the place, we'll play you. We opened the season last year with Harvard Westlake. They were the number 2 team in the country. We opened the season this year with St. John Bosco, number 1 player in the country, sophomore class. They were at the time top 10, dropped a little bit. I think they ended in the top 25 in the country. Then we went and played Damien next. And I mean, we were 2-5, I think, to start the year this year. So, I mean, like, I don't think about that at all.
Do
I
you
think,
see what I'm getting at though, as far as you're playing a sister school, and are we just gonna kill them, or
oh yeah,
you know what I
I
mean?
hate playing Adventist schools. Hate it. Um, it's a no-win situation, right? Um, so, however, I will say this. I think that the Southwestern Adventist University tournament has done a good job of building a competitive tournament. And for us, it's difficult. So the CIF has been very accommodating to our belief system. So we don't have to worry about playing on a Friday night or a Sabbath um, during the playoffs. But during the regular season, when you go to tournaments, those are run by schools, right? They're not beholden to our belief system. So I love Coach LeDuc at Damien. He's been very accommodating with us. It's a national tournament we go to every year. And he's been awesome. But over the years, we've gone to a lot of different tournaments, and usually they're pretty accommodating for a year or two, and then they'll be like, hey, I think we're going to go in a different direction, because if you're doing a bracketed playoff system, then you don't know when we're going to play. It depends on wins and losses, and so then you're scrambling to move teams around. Other schools are frustrated. So we wear out our welcome, and they don't know, then they're no longer willing. Like Section 7 is a great example. We went to Section 7 2 years ago. It's probably the biggest summer live viewing period tournament in the country at State Farm Stadium for high schools. And it's a very coveted prize. Like they had I mean, I think this year was over 1,000 applicant schools, and they take 180, right? And we won. There's 8 different brackets, but we won our bracket, like went undefeated champion in our bracket against the best schools in the country. And so you're thinking, oh, that's great. Next year they were like, hey, we can't do this again. It's too much work for us to move this schedule around for you
Wow.
to accommodate that. And so, and I, and if you get upset over that, then you don't understand our belief system, because our belief system is a choice of what we do because we feel that's the right thing to do within our walk. And it's not something that I don't believe everybody else is required to accommodate for us. So that's my opinion. So if you choose not to accommodate it, I'm not going to fight you on it. We'll have to find somewhere else for our kids to go.
Mm.
So I say that to bring out the point that Southwestern is a wonderful venue for us, because we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to jump through all the hoops of explaining why we can't play at what times and those sorts of things, because they're an Seventh-day Adventist institution, and then we can play a high caliber games. We've had great championship games with Maryland,
Tacoma.
Tacoma Park, every year. Like they're very competitive, good team, play hard, and there's not an expectation at that tournament. But yeah, do we get our kids out after the first quarter? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. We're not gonna win 150 to something, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen and heard of it otherwise, where they're at an Adventist tournament and teams are gonna run the score up because they feel like they have to. Otherwise, it's gonna hurt their ranking, and so that's interesting that you.
Well, if you're an I would question that statement. What Adventist school is ranked high enough to worry about it? None, not even us. So stop that. That's a look. There's levels to this thing. Our Adventist system isn't at a level where we're worried about rankings. If you are, what are you worried about? If you're ranked 1,000 compared to somebody that's ranked 1,200, who cares?
Yeah. I guess it could be a home game versus an away game, in the playoffs, or who knows. But
There's states that use rankings for that.
uh, as far as, yeah, California, I mean, if you're ranked lower, you are going to play as the away team.
That's true next year, but up to this year, that hasn't been true.
Maybe it's Northern California.
Maybe Northern's different.
Yeah.
Maybe that's different.
So are you playing
But
at
that
neutral sites
ranking,
in SoCal?
huh?
Are you playing
What's
at
that?
neutral sites?
No, so the way it works up to next year, it's going to work like just like you said. But here, it works that the the first game is played by the league winner. So if you win your league, you get a home playoff game. After that, it's whoever had the least amount of home games in the playoffs. And if it's a tie, it's a coin flip.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Interesting.
But that will change next year. And
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons I said that it devalued league is because now
Mm.
winning league will no longer get you a home game. It
Mm.
goes,
Hmm.
but the rankings you're talking about are not Max Preps rankings. They're local rankings by that organization. So I can't imagine an Adventist school playing another Adventist school at a tournament somewhere is going to have, like in Southern section, all of our non-section games have no relevance to our ranking within the section.
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah. And so that's
Uh,
another game in the system. If you want to play really high caliber teams, go out of state and do it.
mm.
Like we played Bishop Nevada. Help me out.
I
Bishop
was
Gorman.
I
Bishop
was
Gorman.
thinking
Yeah.
Maryland, Bishop
Bishop,
McNamara, or yeah.
yeah. Bishop Gorman. We played them a couple times in some big showcases on TV and stuff. And that doesn't affect our ranking if we win or lose.
Mm. How long have you guys been going to SWAU?
Well, we've been going for good question. Quite a few years, but we took a break because we couldn't. So it's sometimes challenging through our section to get approved to go. So we need approval from the CIF to do anything. So trying to get approval for that tournament had proved difficult. We actually didn't get approved for a couple of years. We went to Walla Walla instead. And they do a fantastic job running their tournament. Get to stay in the dorms, get to eat at the cafeteria, all your meals. It's pretty well run tournament. Just not as many teams, a little different competitive level, which maybe didn't fit us quite as well as SWAU. But um, we've been able to work through that with the CIF and actually the state commissioner. It's a good guy, and we walked through some of those bylaws. They're designed for schools that are non, some of our schools that aren't affiliated or associate members, they're not that by choice. They're that because the state hasn't figured out a way to accommodate the Sabbath issue and the belief system. And so that's a different scenario than a team that's chosen not to be part of the state association because they want to build a juggernaut and not have any rules to follow, right?
Mm.
Like a grind session team or something like that. And so the rules are designed for, high school team. They don't want modern day to go play prolific prep because prolific prep's a grind session team that isn't part of the state association.
Hmm.
But that's not the case at SWAU, right?
Yeah.
And so when we kind of walked them through that, we've gotten permission. But that's an ongoing year-to-year thing. And if we can't get permission, we can't go because, we're a full member of our state association and we follow all their bylaws.
So at this point, you're planning to go back to SWAU
Yes.
this year? Yeah.
Yes. Yep. We are. Yep.
Last year, you guys win the championship, as you mentioned, over Tacoma Academy. There was one team that was not there that everyone is excited to see play each other next year, which is North Tampa Christian Academy. We put together a little ranking of the best Adventist teams in the country, and we had North Tampa as the number one team. Do you know anything about them? And what do you know?
Um, not enough to have an informed opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
I've never seen them play. Um, I know that
They participated in a tournament in Chicago instead because it was an invite that I can't remember. It's a person's name. It's like a memorial tournament, or I can't remember. But because of that, they couldn't come to SWAU. They had come the year prior, and their girls were there last year. But it sounds like they're going to be hopefully coming back again. So anyway, just
We'll find
FYI.
out if you were right or not.
What's that?
We'll find out if you were right or not.
Yeah, well, one name you should know is Tony Bryant. He was ESPN's 37th ranked player in the country for the class of 2026, and he's receiving quite a bit of attention. He's 6'10" and very athletic. So anyway, it should be a good matchup. Who are some guys that we should know their names on your team?
Um, oh, we got a lot of them. So we were we didn't have we had one senior last year and everybody else was an underclassman. So we
Wow.
returned pretty much everybody. We've got a big kid, freshman kid. Um, his name is Diop, Diop, Mahamadou Diop.
He's
He's a
he's had a
6'10".
highlight on Adventist Hoops on Instagram. So
Okay, there you
people
go.
have
There you
seen,
go.
yeah, he had a
He,
nice, yeah, dunk.
he'll end up being a 5-star, super talented. Um, you know, he's already got we got coaches in the gym all the time just watching him. He's long, athletic, really nice touch, really good feel, young. So he's got to get smarter and tougher, but great kid. He's gonna be really special.
How do you
But
manage all that attention that you know, 14, 15-year-old kid is receiving?
well, that it's important. You got to have a good culture, man. You have to, and you have to have leadership. And that's one of the challenges that we have right now is we have a lot of talent returning, but everybody was an underclassman. So who's going to lead?
Mm,
Uh, who's going to step up and be a leader vocally? Basketball games are not one like you mentioned that North Tampa's got some kid. Like basketball games aren't one like that. Like we play Sierra Canyon every year. They got 5 sons of NBA players out there that are all ranked, and we had Mater Day this year. We had St. John Bosco. There's the #1 player. Like I'm not like that's not what wins basketball games. What wins basketball games is does your team do all the little things? Do they rotate? Do they communicate? Are they willing to defend like their life is dependent on it? Do you rebound the basketball? I mean, if you can keep a team to one and done, you're going to win most of those basketball games. I don't care who it is shooting. I don't care if Michael Jordan's out there. So I think kids just they get caught up on stuff that doesn't win basketball games. Like if you want, and we'll work on what wins basketball games, and you know, like like Danny Hurley just said. I saw a little quote from him. They nothing's going to get in the way of UConn winning championships, right? And what he really meant is like we're going to build with character,
mm.
right? And so, like, are you dapping everybody up down the bench? Are you looking your coach in the eyes when they're talking to you? Are you able to be introspective enough to know what you're good at and what you're not, and want to be coached on what you're not good at? And we talk to our kids about that. And if you can't, if that's not you, then A, you're not going to be great, and B, this is not the place for you.
Mm.
And so we don't get you don't last forever. I had a kid, Lazar Nekic. I love the kid. He was at LMU. I think he's done now, but I mean, he went here and um, he's great, 7-footer that could shoot threes and dribble the basketball, but never quite bought into our system and who we wanted to be. And so never played. Still Division I kid,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. We play for the name in the front of the uniform.
Do you ever get any pushback or criticism about all the recruits that are coming in that are not Seventh-day Adventist?
Well, that's a good question. And I never know how to answer that question. What does a recruit mean? Like, it's kind of an interesting idea. I think it's said by people that haven't figured out maybe I don't know if that's a word used out of
I think what they
ignorant
are meaning
or
is like this kid wouldn't be coming here if it wasn't for basketball.
oh, well, yeah, that's all our kids. No problem. Yeah, good point. Because I mean, like this idea, I'll hear sometimes, well, coach, San Gabriel Academy recruits kids. Well, what does that mean? Like, I don't go to Africa. I don't go to Europe. I don't go to South
Yeah,
America.
right.
I don't have a Rolodex. I'm not calling middle school kids' parents. That's not how it works. Like I run a program, I run it really well, and it draws kids from all over. Then yeah, absolutely. And how did we get that? We got lucky. We got a Marcus Levet that walked through the doors because we had a really good team that won some games before, and he happens to live a block away. And his dad still trains our guys here, and so luck's part of it. The other part of it is that we did a good job of putting the building blocks in place for player development. So most high schools, they focus completely on system. I want to put my system in, come to practice, summer practice. We're going to learn these plays. We're going to learn these zone presses. We're going to learn this. We're going to maybe shoot a little bit, maybe do that. But we come in and we go from 5:30 to, 8 o'clock every morning on nothing system. They're not running a play. They're not. We believe that the weak, chain's only as strong as the weakest link. So we're going to come in here, and it can be girls, boys, middle school kids, high school kids, and we're working in our gym on skill development from 5:30 to 8. Anybody that wants it, and so that speaks to a kid that if I'm a kid and I'm trying to win this race to climb Mount Everest, which is to get a Division I scholarship, then I mean, I've got to find ways that I can separate from everybody else. Well, getting up at 5:30 separates you from a lot of the masses, right? And so if I can put in that time and I'm willing to buy in, and then I go to practice after school where I get to work on the system stuff. And then we go into the weight room where we're very serious about our strength and conditioning program and working on explosion. And then, if we can reshape your body, reshape your mind, so you're winning the battle between the ears, making you a great high character teammate, and then increase your skills. Well, you're going to tell your friends,
Hmm.
and they're going to come because we're doing stuff that I don't think very many high schools do.
Yeah, in that comprehensive of a way, for sure. Yeah. So back to the question, do you think that where does that criticism come from, or what are those questions? Why are the people asking those questions?
I don't think there's a lot of criticism. Maybe I have my head in the sand, but everywhere we go, I mean, we've won a lot of sportsmanship awards. I think that there's how you carry yourself is really important, and I would hope that there's a lot of confidence, but not arrogance in how we carry ourselves. Um, we love to come in there and root on other Adventist schools. You know, we are not competing. I want every one of our schools to be the best that they can be. We are not competing against you. We're competing against ourselves to be the best
Mm,
we can be. So
yeah.
we do not want that comparison, and that's not something that we're interested in. Like I said, there's a lot of different levels to this, and your journey can be very fulfilling at any of those levels if you're striving to be the best you can be. And that's all we do. And it's just so happened that we've continued to be better and better. And so now we happen to be at a high level, but the journey's the same as when we were at Division 5.
Mm, yeah. So true. You talked about Tim Windemuth earlier. Uh, for people that don't know who he is, just talk about him a little bit and the impact he's made on you.
Well, I never actually played for Tim Windemuth because my coach was Gary Hamburg at Walla University, but my high school coach was Rod Strobel, and I hold that guy in just about the highest esteem a human being can be held. He was instrumental in my life as a young person. I don't think I would be a professional, much less where I am today without him. I love that man. He's my high school coach. I still call him, still try to visit him every summer. And love you, Coach Strobel. But Tim, he was, I grew
You
up in
said you
Walla.
coached under him, right?
Well, so I played for him in high school.
Okay.
Strobel, Coach Strobel. He was
But Windemuth was the AD when you were
Windemuth was the AD, and I
coaching.
grew up
Yeah.
with Tim. So
Okay.
Tim has two kids. Tammy Windemuth is his daughter, and she was in my class. We went all the
Okay.
way through Rogers, Walla Valley Academy, graduated together, and um, so I haven't talked to Tammy for a long time, but she's awesome. His younger son Joey was a few years behind me. I might have been in my sister's class, but anyway, so I know Coach Windemuth really well, and he really worked to build Walla University's athletic program, and his name is on the court now. He was instrumental in all of that, and he is the one that hired me to come to Walla University when I left San Gabriel Academy the first time. And I came back up there and I was his like assistant AD, sports information director, and head girls basketball coach. Because you know how it is, you got to piece together a living the best way you can. And so he's, and he's retired now. And great guy. And he started at Orangewood Academy. He was the coach there, AD, and then went on to Walla Walla, and he had huge impacts everywhere he's been.
Well, he's just a huge figure, huge personality. I mean, if you've never met him before, he recruited me when I was coming out of Sacramento Academy here, and just really full of energy, full of life, full of enthusiasm and passion. And so I was just curious, like what you took from your time there that you've implemented as an AD, in your subsequent stops.
Well, I'm going to go way different because I'll tell you the thing that I have taken the most from Tim is he and his wife. I remember always seeing them walking down the street, going on walks in the evening, holding hands together. And so, probably, I would say, forget about all the basketball stuff. The thing I've taken away from that is, is my wife and I, we try to go on walks every night, and I think of Tim. So just kind of off the cuff, but let me tell you, I mean, I'm just a really big believer, if you can't tell already, that um, you know, you have, if you want to compete, you got to compete in every area of your life. You can't compete to win basketball games. That just make you into a terrible person. You got to compete to be the best you. If you compete to be the best you, it will permeate every part of your life, and you'll start to have success all over the place. And so I think that Tim was true to who he was, right? There was no, I'm very attracted to people who are genuine. And he's a genuine human being. He's genuine in his walk with Christ. He's genuine in his interactions with people, and I appreciate that and respect that about him.
Beautiful. You mentioned you played at Walla Walla. How many years did you play? What position?
So yeah, I was a slow, short point guard back in the day. It was a long time ago, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. And yeah, played there, had fun. We won our first PNCC championship there when I was there. I actually had gone and played at Eastern Oregon, and then I came to Walla Walla and played there, and really enjoyed my time there. And I had broke my back coming out of high school with Tim Windemuth. He took a trip, and I went snowboarding on Mount Hood with him, and I broke my back, and so that kind of
My
put a
goodness.
damper on my first year. I was rehabbing that at home, and then I went to college after that and started over. So yeah.
You mentioned Josh Agai's story.
Oh
He's
yeah. Thanks for bringing that back. Good job. So I got here, and Josh he'd been here since sixth grade, and he was now a freshman in high school. And I came in, and here's this 6'6" specimen. He's just an amazing, his measurements, we call him. He is 6'6". He had like a 6'8" wingspan. He was 225 pounds, muscle, jump out of the gym. And so obviously he had been the man since sixth grade. And so we came in, and there was a culture shift. We wanted to establish what we wanted to be and who we wanted to be. And, as often is the case, when somebody hasn't had to really push themselves to be the best them, they struggle with that sort of discipline. And so he wasn't running as hard as we wanted him to run. Team wasn't making the times in suicides or 17s that we wanted. And the way we work is if you don't make it, you keep running until you make it. And it gets harder and harder and harder. And so we'll spend
Man,
2 straight hours just running.
something
Right.
out of Miracle, the hockey movie.
Yeah. I mean, we always just go like, hey, man, you don't want to be a good basketball player. At least we'll make you into an endurance, you know.
Yeah.
So he wasn't happy. The team wasn't happy with him because they kept having to run because of him. So he went into we eventually ended up kicking him out of the gym. I kicked him out of practice. I said, get out of here, get your stuff. And so he headed to the locker room. And one of my assistant coaches, Larry Williams, you guys probably know him as Bone Collector, kind of a popular figure. He's one of our assistants here, good guy, little brother to me. He went in there, and this is the power of having good assistants. He went in there and he's like, hey man, like, don't waste our time. Like if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Like, you get to choose what you amount to. Nobody else gets to choose that. It's like, but don't, coach has got a family, coach has got a job, like, don't waste our time. And so I don't think he'd ever been approached like that. And so he packed his stuff up and left, and I think he thought we were going to chase him. And, that was it. I didn't say anything to him. We practiced the next day and had the guys that were there. And I told them, hey, man, like, all that matters is we're going to go to battle. And I want to know that I got somebody that's got my back. That's all that matters to me. Let's go get in the trenches together, and win or lose, let's just make sure we got each other's backs. And so we're not going to play with somebody that doesn't buy into that. And so we went a couple weeks and played a few games. I think that was quite the interesting experience for him. So he came back in eventually, talked to one of my assistant coaches and said, hey man, don't you guys want me on the team anymore? And Bone was like, look, man, of course we want you on the team, but not unless you're bought in, not unless you're all in. And he's like, don't bother going to coach unless you're 100% ready to be all in and do whatever it takes. And so then we didn't hear from him for another couple of weeks, kept playing the season. And then finally, I think it was December, he came in and he was like, all right, coach, I'll do whatever it takes. I understand my problems. I understand. And we had a great talk. And we came to the conclusion that, he wasn't going to be perfect, but he was going to recognize that when he didn't want to do things, he was going to respond appropriately when we made him do things. And it was going to be hard, and it was okay to express that, but that we were going to do that together. And then I told him his penance to get on the team was to paint the weight room. So we went in there on Sunday and we painted the weight room together for actually for a couple of weeks to get it all done. And then when he was done with that, he talked to the team. They voted to let him back on, and he finished the year with that. And his career took off after that. He ended up having like 9 Division I offers, and he's a professional in Germany now. And I can tell you, if you have him on here, he'll talk about that in a real positive way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great story just from the fact that no matter what level you're at, some of our Adventist basketball teams that are at a lower level that have teams full of people that aren't really like bought in or aren't like going to be held to a certain standard. Here we have, one of the top teams in Adventist basketball. Don't care what the skill level is, we're going to hold you accountable to our standard. And I think that's a great example for coaches and programs, across the whole spectrum of Adventist basketball. So love it. Coach, I could talk to you all day. I know you're busy and you got to go. If it's okay, I got a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
One is just, you mentioned, forming the Adventist Middle School League back in the day. How important is it? You know, a lot of our Adventist academies are um, now having middle school teams, which we never used to have. So, how important is that? And is that something that if how much is it holding a program back to not have one?
So you can't build anything without a foundation. And we need to invest in our foundation across the board, all sports, boys and girls equally. And we need to invest in developing them, because I'm a real believer that the sports is a microcosm of life. You know, you know, sports is a great character revealer.
Mm.
It's only when you choose to work on your character that it becomes a character builder. And so sometimes we get confused because maybe something happens in sports that reveals character, and sometimes it's ugly. And we say, oh, well, it's the sports fault. No, we just revealed character. That's all we
Mm.
did.
Yeah.
And great. I'm excited when that happens. Like, oh, you know, now we know where we're at. Now you can't pretend to be something else. Let's address where we're at, and let's figure out how to, and so we need to do that at a young age, and we need to build those opportunities for kids. And kids will hit ceilings at different places. Some of them self-imposed, some of them genetic. And that's fine. But to have that opportunity, I know for me personally, um, I needed the outlet of athletics. I remember when I was in grade school, I got in a lot of trouble. And back then they could paddle you. Mr. Thorne Rogers would get the paddle all the time. And because I didn't have an outlet. And then I got to middle school, and my parents put me at Sager Middle School to play basketball, even though I went to Rogers. And man, my discipline issues plummeted because I had an outlet. And I started to learn about myself, and I started to learn what it meant to compete, to actually want to win, right? I always get on kids all the time. I'm like, do you want to be right or do you want to win?
Hmm.
Like, you're over there tearing your teammates down. How's that going to help you win? Right? Like, if you want to win, can you win without scoring? If I put you on a team, can you will your team to victory without scoring? Is it if you can't, then you don't really care about winning. You just care about you. Anyway, it's a
Yeah.
great journey, and I think we need to
Yeah.
do it K through 12. And so
Mm.
I think one of the big issues that we have is, we do have to rethink how we brand ourselves and what the value proposition is for Adventist education, because clearly the numbers across the NAD over the last couple of decades are scary, staggeringly bad. And so we have to figure that out. And I think athletics is a big part of that because it's forward facing. And it's a brand in the community. And so that's been effective for us here. But that can't just be at the high school level. We've got to also build, otherwise we run the risk of having programs and then we have feeder systems where where's their place, right? And so, if we can grow to the place where we have freshman team and JV teams and so on, and soft froshes, then maybe we can build within that 4-year experience in high school. But we really need to build all the way through. And we have a very robust middle school program here. Again, my administration is awesome, and I couldn't do anything without them, and I wouldn't. I've decided a long time ago I'm not cowboying anything outside of what I can build collaboratively within our school. And so we've been very fortunate to have great support all the way through the board, all the way through my athletic council. And we have a great middle school program, but we are really trying to figure out that K4 piece, because our middle school
Mm.
starts at 5th grade up. So
Hmm.
we have good sports 5th grade up, but right now we're doing after school clinics. So we do Mondays and Wednesdays is basketball, Tuesdays and Thursdays is soccer.
Wow, that's
Um,
great.
we have Saturday nights are volleyball clinics. And so that's how we're slowly starting to build. But we need, it's always financial, right? Our numbers are down. How do we have a full-time physical education teacher? How are we building psychomotor movements in our young kids so that they can run and jump and skip and throw a ball and catch a ball and do all the little things that it takes to then develop the more macro skills of whatever sport you want to play.
Hmm. What you said about competition revealing character, I think is just a wonderful way to look at it. Sometimes, especially in Adventist circles, traditionally people would look at competition and say, "Oh, it brings out the worst in people." Well, it reveals opportunities, like you're saying. I mean, and if we're really in life change business as educators and coaches, mentors, then you're going to be excited about those opportunities. And frankly, parents should be excited about the opportunities for kids to learn about certain life lessons that they're going to have at an early age that other people may not experience till they're adults. So I think that's a wonderful perspective. So, Kevin, one last thing is, what does basketball mean to you?
You ever watch that movie Kingdom of Heaven? At the end, they've been fighting over Jerusalem, and he says,
Orlando Bloom?
"I might be. I don't know. I'm bad with actors.
Me too. I can't remember, but I think I have. It's been a long time. But
anyway, they asked him a similar question. They said, "What is Jerusalem?" He said, "Nothing, everything." And that's basketball.
We're just going to have to end on that, and everyone can digest it in whatever way speaks to them. So, Kevin, thank you so much. Congratulations on all the success. And I'm hoping one of these years I'm going to get out to SWAU. Maybe it's going to be this next year, and would love to see you guys out there.
Where are you at right now?
I'm in Sacramento.
Come out and watch us play at Cali Live. We're up at Cali Live for the open viewing period for NCAA end of June.
There we go.
It's in Sacramento.
Well, perfect. I'll do that.
All right.
I'll do that. All right. Well, thanks so much, Kevin.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.